students. Today we are going to work on sequencing events. And our story of the week is The Journey of Oliver K. Woodman. And this is one of my favorite stories and journeys. I know I feel like I say that all the time because I love so many of these stories, but this is such a fun and special story to read because it is told by letters. So as you read this story yesterday, I'm sure you realized that it is told by writing letters back and forth between Tamika, who is a little girl, probably about your age, and her Uncle Ray. So they both write letters back and forth, and Tamika really wants Uncle Ray to come visit her in California. And the way I can tell that she is in California is because right here it says Red Crest, California, and this is her letter. And whenever you write a letter, you have to include the city that you're in and the state. So she really wants her uncle who lives in Rock Hill, South Carolina, to come visit, but he can't because he'll be busy all summer long. So he creates this man. He's like a very big doll made up from wood, which is why his name is Oliver K. Woodman. And he sends him across the country with lots of different people and eventually gets him to Tamika. So it's a really fun story to read. Today we're going to be working on sequencing events. Sequencing events is when we tell the order of things that happen in a story. So you sequence events every day in your life. Most of the time it's things that you do at home or at school. So maybe in the morning, the first thing you do is after you wake up, the first thing you do is maybe go get dressed for the school day. And then maybe the second thing you do is go downstairs and eat your breakfast. And then the third thing you do maybe is brush your teeth, brush your hair, and then head off to school. So the way that we can tell when things are being sequenced is because we use those transition words like first, second, last. You can also use words like then, next, finally, those kinds of transition words. And we use those when we also are writing. So I know that if you're writing something like a narrative, you can use transition words to tell the order of events. So today, we're actually just going to sequence events from this story together. And it just looks like this. So this is kind of a chart that we are going to use that will help us sequence the different events in this story. Okay, so it says, as you read, note the sequence or order and which things happen in the story. Clues such as dates, time of day, and signal words can help you determine the sequence. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and read some of this story. Now, obviously, we can't sequence the whole story because there's way more than 3 events in the story of Oliver K. Woodman, right? He goes on to a lot of different states with a lot of different people. But we can do some sequencing, and we're going to start at the beginning of the story. So if I start at the very beginning, the first letter is from Tamika. It says, May 10th, Red Crest, California. Dear Uncle Ray, please come visit us this summer. We will go camping, we can swim and catch fish. You are my favorite uncle. Please say you will come. Love, Tamika, XOXOXO. And then 7 days later on May 17th in Rock Hill, South Carolina, Uncle Ray says, Dear Tamika, I'd love to come to California, but I can't. I will be building kitchen cabinets for some new apartments all summer. But maybe my friend Oliver will come visit. Love, Uncle Ray. Okay, so we can see him building Oliver here. So the first thing that happens in this story is that Tamika starts a conversation with Uncle Ray, asking him to come visit her in California. So that's what I'm going to write down. And the transition word I can use there can be first. So I'm going to say first, and this I'm going to write in a complete sentence here, which means I need a complete thought. First, Tamika writes to Uncle Ray, and I have to capitalize his name because it's a proper noun, to ask if he can visit her in Redcrest, California. So that is like the first thing that happens in this story, and that is how this all starts, okay? Because Uncle Ray, he can't visit because he's too busy working over the summer. So he comes up with a solution to that problem and he creates Oliver. So if we keep reading, it says, this is the letter he actually puts in Oliver's backpack. And we can see that because of this illustration right here. He's putting it in Oliver's backpack because the people are going to be reading this letter to know what Oliver is, what his purpose is and where he's trying to get to. Remember, Oliver can't talk, okay? He can't move by himself. So he has to rely on other people to do that for him. Dear traveler, I am going to see Tamika Schwartz, 370 Park Avenue, Redcrest, California, 95569. Please give me a ride and help me get there. If you don't mind, drop a note to my friend Raymond Jackson, 111 Stony Lake, Rock Hill, South Carolina. 29730. He wants to keep up with my travels. Thanks, Oliver K. Woodman. So that's the letter that Uncle Ray sends with him. So that is what the people will be reading throughout the way, which is why they're all sending letters back to Uncle Ray, letting them know how Oliver is doing on his journey. So I think the second thing that we should write down for sequencing would be that second, Uncle Ray builds a man named Oliver and sends him to find Tamika in California, or sends him to Tamika's house in California. So I can use that transition word second. I could even use words like next or then. I'm just going to use second. Uncle Ray builds Oliver and sends him on his way to Tamika. And why does he build Oliver in the first place? Like, why does he even do that at all? Well, if you're thinking because he can't go visit, then that would be right? He builds Oliver as a way to communicate and to go kind of see Tamika when Uncle Ray actually can't. So he wants Tamika to have fun, but he can't go there and have fun with her. So he's sending Oliver there for her. So he does this since he cannot visit her himself. So that is why Uncle Ray sends Oliver, which is a very clever idea. All right, so the third thing that we can do, let's see. June 1st, Rock Hill, South Carolina. Dear favorite niece, Tamika. Oliver left this morning. Let me know when he gets there. It should take him a couple of weeks, or maybe more. It's hard to say. Love, Uncle Ray. So that is what Uncle Ray writes to Tamika on June 1st and tells her to be looking out for Oliver. All right, June 4th, McTavish Plantation outside Memphis, Tennessee. So now we can see that we have a new state here that we haven't heard of in this story before, and it's Tennessee. Dear Ray, for 2 days, Oliver rode in the back of my truck and kept Bert, my Brahmin bull, company. I delivered Bert to his new home, and he's settling in. But he'll miss the late-night conversations and singing with Oliver. I left Oliver east of the Mississippi River, just outside Memphis, and hurried home to my beloved Amelia. Yours truly, Jackson McTavish. Wow, so the third thing that happens in this story so far is that Oliver gets to ride in the back of a truck with a man named Jackson and actually a bull named Bert. He gets to ride in the back with him, and this man named Jackson McTavish is driving him. And so he is, it says he left Oliver east of the Mississippi River, just outside Memphis. So Memphis is in Tennessee. So that means that Oliver went from South Carolina to Tennessee. So we can say, we can say third, Jackson McTavish drives Oliver to, let's see, I'm going to go back in the book to make sure that I am writing down the right thing, which is what I always want you to do as well. So he drives Oliver east of the Mississippi River, and he leaves him outside Memphis, Tennessee. So he drives Oliver to right outside of Memphis, Tennessee. And we can even say, we can add another detail and say how long that took. It says, for 2 days, Oliver rode in the back of my truck. So for 2 days, it took him 2 days to get from South Carolina to right outside of Memphis, Tennessee. So I can say it took 2 days for Oliver to get here. All right, so there is my third thing that happened in this story. And we know, because we all read this story yesterday, that so many more events happen. So actually what you are going to do is do a seesaw assignment now, and it's going to tell you what pages you're going to have to read and then sequence those pages in the events in the story. So remember that sequencing means what? What does sequencing mean? I want you to say that out loud to yourself. And if you're in a spot where you can't say it out loud, then I want you to think about it in your head. Say it in your head. What does sequencing mean? We just did it here. This flow chart helped us sequence the events. And if you're thinking that it means to put the events of a story in order, then yes, you are correct. Sequencing means to put the events of a story in order. And you can do that from memory, right? But with a story like Oliver K. Woodman, this is a very comprehensive story, right? There's a lot of things that are happening in this story. And so it's very, very wise and smart to use your book for these sequencing activities with this story, because there's so many things that are happening. And I don't want you to make any silly mistakes because you decided not to use your book. Okay, good readers always go back in the text and see what happens. So that is our lesson for today on sequencing. And I will leave you now to go ahead and do the seesaw assignment. And if you have any questions, make sure that to rewatch this video, use your book, or you can always contact your teacher as well. Okay, so I will see all of you next time. Bye.